Hi, hey, it's Stephanie with This Reader's Life, Books and Other Blessings, and I am so glad that you stopped by. If you've never been here before, this channel is just about books. I'm not genre driven. So there's lots and lots of different kinds of books, and try to read across the spectrum a lot of different kinds of books. I'm sort of a mood reader, but for the month of August, and it's the middle of August, and I'm just going to do an update for the middle of August. At the beginning of August, I talked about that I wanted to read a lot of Audible books, or listen to Audible books for August. It's sort of a thing, Audible August, and I sort of chose it because I wanted to do some crocheting too, and I felt like it was a perfect excuse to just sit down and listen to books and crochet, so that it's sort of like multitasking. And instead of crocheting, I've done, I've fixed dinners, I've worked in the garden, I've listened a lot. So I have 4 books here that I will talk about, and I'm curious to see what other people thought about these. These were, except for one, these were books that I sort of randomly chose, maybe based on Goodreads or based on something that was advertised on Audible on sale or something like that. I think one of them I chose as my one credit that I get every month, although I don't remember which one it was. But I will start first with and I'm going to put my glasses on so I sometimes look at my notes. I'm going to start with A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. And C.S. Lewis is a Christian writer, and he wrote a lot of books for adults, but he also wrote the Narnia series. So The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and so on and so forth. That is his, which has Christian overtones, but they're really just magical stories for young children. But anyway, this is not for young children. This book is called A Grief Observed. And when I say A Grief Observed, I think it's important to realize that Lewis isn't trying to write about what grief is like for other people. He's trying to write about trying to come to terms. These were a lot of journal entries and his thoughts and collections of writings on how he felt after he lost his wife. Her name was Joy. They hadn't been married for a real long time. They weren't lifelong. They weren't a lifelong couple. They weren't lifelong spouses. And it was published in 1961 under a pseudonym. So he published it without saying it was from him. It was just. I think he was just trying to come to terms with his own grief. I don't think he was necessarily trying to tell people how to grieve, if that makes sense. It was published under his real name in 1963, shortly after his death. So that there are themes of grief, love, remembrance, faith, anger, joy, pain, a lot of different things. And he talks a lot in it about the cyclical nature of sorrow, in that you keep telling yourself, I should get past this, I should quit thinking about this, I shouldn't ruminate about this, but you keep coming back around to it. And he also talks about how it shook his faith in some ways, and that it made him think more about God and what God's expectations are, as well as about heaven and what our expectations are in regard to heaven, and how he kind of came to terms with some of those things. He missed his wife desperately, and he talked about wanting to be alone because he didn't want to talk to people. But then when he was around people, he liked the fact that the people were there. He just didn't want to talk with them. He wanted them to go on about their lives so he could just be part of sort of a community, which I think is lovely, and which I sort of understand that feeling. It's like, I don't want to have a direct conversation. I just want to listen to what's going on. Sometimes when you're upset, or you don't really want to be alone. I think that's kind of what he's saying, and that you become so much more alone when your spouse is gone. There were a few quotes from it that I want to share because I think they're either humorous or beautiful or true, and always true, I would say. At least they were for him, and they come straight from his heart, and I appreciated them. So the first one, which is well known, I think, as being a part of A Grief Observed, and that is, no one ever told me that grief felt so like fear. And I've never thought about grief as being afraid, but I can see fear and grief. and I can see grief and fear as well. So I like that. The other thing that he wrote, and I think this is humorous, but so true, and it just brings it together for me. And that is, what do people mean when they say, I am not afraid of God because I know he is good? Have they never even been to a dentist? And isn't that the truth? And then the last one, and this is my favorite, it is this: heaven will solve all our problems, but not, I think, by showing a subtle reconciliation between all our apparently contradictory notions. The notions will all be knocked from under our feet. We shall see that there was never any problem. And I think that our picture of heaven, that we have to make it up, because there's not any way we can understand the kind of glorious that eternity will offer us. And to try to put it into meeting up with all your old friends and everybody is happy again and no one is sad and you can eat whatever you want, you won't get fat, all those kind of things that you think, I don't think that's, I think heaven is probably much different than that, and that God is central. So I think that's beautifully written. I think that we'll see that's not a problem. We will see that there is no problem because it's heaven. But it's impossible for us on earth. This is a wicked hard place. You get little bits and pieces, and I don't know. The next book is What Kind of Paradise, and I listened to it. It is written by Janelle Brown, and it was written in 2025, I do believe. And this is a story about a young girl named Jane who has sort of come of age or become a young adult while living with her dad in an off-grid situation in a cabin. And as far as she knows, it is just her dad. Her mother has died when she was quite young. There was some kind of a horrific car accident, and he was a former kind of an IT type of guy, only this would have been in the very, very early stages of the internet. And he has pretty much given up all of technology. He doesn't trust the government, and he loves nature, and he's taught her about nature and philosophy and all the classics. And so she has somewhat of an education. She's been homeschooled, but she starts to push her dad's boundaries. She's like, she wants to know more, and she's like, what's going to happen to me? And again, the internet is just becoming available for the general public, and her father brings home, at one point, he leaves from time to time for short periods, and he brings home a laptop, and he brings it out for her, and I believe he's given her a book about programming, and he says he's going to write his manifesto to the world so that they will understand what a mess technology is going to create for them. Which if you think about that, it's kind of ironic that he's going to publish this whole thing through a laptop on the World Wide Web. So, but she sort of teaches herself HTML, and she's able to get his manifesto posted. And then he decides to go out. They've done this, and she's watching on this. She's understanding the internet really well. She's even connected with some person in, I think it's San Francisco or near San Francisco, where in one of the early chat rooms, I remember them very, very faintly, but really, really early stuff. It was, you had to wait for everything to come up. It took forever. Everything had to connect. That weird noise that it made. I'm remembering Netgear or something like that is what we had for internet. But anyway, it's just becoming available, and she and her father set out together for him to do something that he says maybe she can help him with. And what happens is that they go to Microsoft, early Microsoft. It might not even be called Microsoft yet. And she becomes complicit in a major crime. And she ends up going one direction, her father ends up going the other direction. They're supposed to meet back up, but once she starts to see the TV reports of what's happened, she realizes just how complicit she really is. And so the story from there is about her attempting to find her mother, about using technology to move forward. She manages to find the individual who she has connected with online in the chat room and has help through that. She gets a job, and so she's it's interesting to watch her, the fact that she's naive about things, or not watch, but hear about it. She doesn't understand certain things, There's terminology she doesn't understand. There's dating mores. There's things she just. Yet there are other times when it seems like she's far too wise to have been completely cut off from everything. So I liked this book. It felt a little bit like it was trying to teach me something about the potential evils of the internet, which anybody that's grown up with it, certainly, I didn't even grow up with it. It started with me as an adult, but you certainly know that technology can be really scary and can be used for both good and evil. And so it felt kind of preachy in that respect. I liked the book. It wraps up nicely, but I didn't love it, if that makes any sense. I didn't give it a lot of stars. I wouldn't say it was predictable. I would just say it just wasn't my kind of book, maybe. I did not really enjoy it. The next book that I read, or listened to, was The Morning Hours, and it's by Paula Trike-DeBoard. It was written in 2013. I think it was her debut novel. It's very good. And to me, it was a little tricky in that you think of it sort of as a mystery, but then you realize that it's really exploring something a little different than the mystery. It's what happens to a family when something unspeakable happens. And this is about a family in Wisconsin. They're a dairy farm family. There's 3 kids. There's Johnny. He's the oldest. He's a wrestler in high school. He's a senior hoping for a scholarship. There's Emily, who is the middle child. She's kind of an abrasive, opinionated kid in about 1994 and 1995. And she just kind of tells it like it is. She doesn't, she pushes authority just a little bit, but she's just a kid. And then there's Kirsten, who is 9. And the story is really told from Kirsten's viewpoint. And she is 9 years old when her brother starts dating a girl that Kirsten absolutely idolizes. Her name is Stacy. And Stacy comes from a wealthy family in this rural community. Her father is an attorney. And Johnny and Stacy become very close very quickly. And this creates kind of a worried, what is the word for that? It's concern. Her parents are concerned. His parents are concerned about his level of involvement with this girl. They're very, very affectionate publicly. It's making his parents very uncomfortable. His father is mostly worried about his scholarship, chances for a scholarship, and his wrestling career, so to speak, that is going to accelerate him forward in life. He's going to be able to go to school and get a college education. That's important to his father, as it is to his mother. But his mother's also, she married young and just out of high school, and she's concerned about that he'll throw his life away, and she keeps trying to tell him, the seriousness that you're going at this with is a bad idea. You need to slow down. And that Johnny, thinks she's being overprotective, etc. So, and Kirsten is watching all this, and Johnny, she sees a lot of different things, and she's quiet and she's observant. So she sees things, and and she's also wise, maybe a little beyond her years because of her rural upbringing. So she becomes slightly worried or aware of the possibility that Kirsten or that Stacy could become pregnant, and it frightens her, and she's worried about it, and she's worried about it, what would happen to her family, and but she doesn't really talk to anybody about it because she doesn't really know if she knows anything. So that's where they are when Johnny and Stacy go out on a date, and Johnny comes home from the date. It's a horrible snowy night, and as it turns out, she and Stacy and Johnny had a disagreement while they were trying to drive home in the snow. They ran off the road. There was a little accident, and Stacy announced that she would just walk home, and Johnny told her, "You do that," and Stacy never made it home. So Johnny comes under suspicion, and this story becomes a story about what happens in a town where that kind of a disappearance occurs, and there is no explanation for it. Stacy's not found. Johnny's under suspicion. There is not enough evidence. He's vehement in saying that he had nothing to do with it. The town takes sides. The family can't be sure that Johnny wasn't involved. and they sort of begin to draw their conclusions. And it rips this family apart. And the story does eventually all come together, and you do find out what happened to Stacy. And through the whole book, through a good part of the book, I was thinking to myself, what happened to Stacy? And after, there was a point where the story turned, and it wasn't that kind of a mystery anymore. It wasn't what happened to Stacy, it's what happened to them, to the family, to the town, to everyone except for Stacy. Everyone else, what happens to them? And it was very, very well written. The landscape was a big part of the story. She does a good job of capturing the time and Kirsten's feelings and her innocence and her wisdom, and each individual in the family. It sort of tells each of their stories and what happens to them. And as I said, it comes together in the end, and it's a good story. So I enjoyed the book. I will probably read more Paula Trike-DeBoer, but if you're looking for a mystery, sort of a whodunit, this is probably not your book. It is much, much deeper than that. So that's what I thought about that one. The last one that I read, and I have about 20 or 30 minutes left to go on it, but it is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 8, which is the last one in the series for now. There's supposed to be more books for sure, and there has to be, because I absolutely adore Emma M. Lyon. I can't stop. It's hard for me to hold myself back and not listen to every little bit, because I don't want it to end, and I don't feel that way very often, and especially not about a book like this. Because M. Lyon is a simple story. But it just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and more fun, and more, what do you call that? Anticipatory. I can't wait to see what happens next. And the characters are so well drawn and so well fleshed out that to me, you can absolutely see them. It's almost like watching a television program or a movie or a stage play. And it's done so well. And Beth Brower is a good writer, and she knows exactly what she's doing. I think she said she wanted to write it almost like you would a television series or an adaptation of some novel, except for that this is Emma M. Lyon, and it is she is an original. There's no doubt about it. So I'm enjoying that one a lot. Those are the 4 that I have listened to and enjoyed by mid-August here. And then I'm still listening to Whistler by Ann Patchett, and I don't know yet what I'm going to think about that one, although it's read by the author, which I really, really am enjoying, because I feel like if anybody can make you hear it the way she wants it to sound, it would be the author. So I'm enjoying that. She's a good narrator. But other than that, that's where I am. There are a couple of other physical books that I plan to try to finish up the month of August with, and I will come back with my wrap up probably before the end of August, and we'll talk about September and what's going to happen then. I have lots of different ideas about that. And I hope you enjoyed yourself today, and I hope you can remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, be kind to the planet, and be blessed. Y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.